Nick,
Wow.
if I were to pay you in Bitcoin, would you accept it?
Yes.
You would?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Because I'm going to. How much Bitcoin? How much faith do you have in Bitcoin? First of all.
Well, I don't know anything about Bitcoin, to be honest with you.
Oh, good.
Or I don't know much about Bitcoin. In terms of the faith I have in Bitcoin, I have a lot of friends and people who have lost a lot of money in Bitcoin. However, the technology behind it, the blockchain, I think is very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Innovative in the
Yes.
way of the future.
Yeah.
So I do have faith in the technology behind Bitcoin.
Yep.
In terms of like Bitcoin itself and people using it to buy certain things, I think we're definitely on the part of I forgot what you call it, but it's part of the trend where it's like the early adopters.
Yes.
And I'm definitely not an early adopter, but I'm totally willing to see people adopt to have it become mainstream.
Yeah, yeah. I have a good friend who works for a blockchain company, and it was actually, she worked for one of the guys who and I may slaughter this, but I think he developed blockchain or was one of the developers of blockchain technology.
Nice.
So he was an early investor in every one of the cryptocurrencies.
Oh.
And as a result, his income, literally skyrocketed because
yeah.
he was mining these coins, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., was mining them before anyone else was actually putting value on it, right? So anyway, we're here to talk about Bitcoin today, as you might imagine, and we're going to sort of give you a little heads up about what it is, what's happened with it, and how to understand it just a little bit better. So the best way I can describe this is Bitcoin is basically a peer-to-peer transaction network, or gives you the ability to, let me just read it from the bitcoin.org website. Bitcoin provides a new approach to payments, and as such, there are some new words that might become a part of your vocabulary. So every Bitcoin address is similar to a physical address or an email. So Bitcoins can't be stolen necessarily. It's an innovative payment network and kind of a new kind of money. But once you own a coin and you transfer it to someone else, it's all recorded in the blockchain, right? So, it's super interesting.
Yeah, very easy it makes tracking purposes very easy. The source of certain things.
Yes.
And it sounds like it's very clear. I do know that there's no government agency, so like you said, it's peer-to-peer.
Correct.
And it's really interesting too because it, in some sense, and correct me if I'm wrong, it really goes back to quote unquote olden days of like bartering, right, and like really creating value and exchanging.
Yeah.
It's just really fascinating to see something from nothing literally spring up and then have value created around it.
Yeah. So I was at a college event and was speaking to a group of college students, and a young guy said, should I put all my money in cryptocurrency? And I said, well, it depends how much money we're talking about and what cryptocurrency. And he said he had like $400 or something like that. But at the time, Bitcoin was $18,000 a coin.
Oh,
And today it's like literally today is 4,000.
Yeah.
So he was convinced that it was going from 18 to 50 or 100,000 a coin. And what we saw was this massive spike in Bitcoin price, and it's now leveled off and gone down, I think for a number of different reasons, one of which being there have been so many other new currencies that have come on the market. I still think Bitcoin is a front mover, and will now it's basically cemented its place. There are literally stores that are accepting Bitcoin as payment.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it, right? When you started seeing PayPal on transaction stations, it was all mainstream.
Yeah.
So I think Bitcoin is definitely going there. Today it's $4,000 a coin. So a good friend of mine, who's a financial advisor, told me this when asked, should I invest in Bitcoin? He said, how much did you pay for your very first computer? So do you remember what your very first computer cost?
Might have been like $2,000.
Okay. So mine was, I think, $2,500, and it was a desktop, and it was like slower than, literally your phone has 50 times the processing power. But I paid $2,500 for it, and he said, at the very least, you should probably invest $2,500 in Bitcoin. And when I said why, he said, because it's a new and innovative technology, just like the computer was. And I think at some point it's going to be fairly mainstream and you're going to want to have a piece of it. So, so interestingly, that's why it came up.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about why it's a big deal.
Okay.
Do you remember this?
I sure do.
Here, I want you to hold it so you can show it to show it to everybody. We brought this up one time. We are flashing the $1 billion Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe bill. Smells like lies. One of the reasons behind Bitcoin was there was a certain group of developers that was concerned about hyperinflation, about what happens to US currency as an example if we were to experience an economy like Venezuela or Zimbabwe. So this Zimbabwean dollar or billion dollar bill, this would have bought, I think, a loaf of bread at one point. They said it was just crazy inflation in their country. And the reason it was inflated was there is a central bank that controls what the value of this dollar is. Same thing in the US. We have the Fed. The Fed controls monetary policy, et cetera, et cetera. Bitcoin is separate from that. As Nick said, there is no government intervention. And so part of the reason that I have invested a little bit in Bitcoin is I too believe that at some level, it's good to be separated and have value separate from government.
No.
Yeah. Can you think of anything else that would be separate from, the value of a dollar as an example?
Anything that would be separate from the value of a dollar that is currently not. I mean, you're not referring to like gold standard, are you? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So gold standard or gold.
Gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So silver and gold, and gold. Back in, and I want to say it was 1975. We'll have to look it up and maybe jot it down in the show notes. But Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, which meant that every dollar that was floating around in the economy at that point in time had gold that was backing it. You may have heard stories about Fort Knox having all the gold, right? So there was enough gold in deep, dark places that there was gold that backed every single US dollar. When we went off the gold standard, our money became fiat currency, meaning it's just a promise by the government.
Yeah.
So when did we go off it?
1973.
73.
Yeah. You're so
close.
Yeah.
So in 73, we go off the gold standard, but today gold is, let's see, check the price of gold. I want to say it's $12.50 an ounce. $1,300 an ounce today. So $1,300 an ounce for gold. At one point, it was up to $2,000 an ounce. And you'll start to see gold prices go up as people pour money into gold, fearing that the dollar is going to be worth less. And I think you'll see the same thing with Bitcoin as we go through.
Yeah. Very interesting.
It is, right?
Yeah.
So where should we send people for more Bitcoin information?
That's a good question. Bitcoin.org.
Yeah.
That's where we should send them. It's very official.
My challenge to you guys is this. Go check out Bitcoin if you are so inclined, and if you have discretionary investable money to do so. Consider looking at buying either Bitcoin or Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash. Those are kind of the three most traded cryptocurrencies, as well as one called Ethereum. Those are, tend to be more popular. There's some of them out there that are actually being invested in by companies like Microsoft. So if you think about, as you research them, look into who's investing, who's funding some of the research and the mining of these coins before you do pull the trigger.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Have you learned everything you want to learn about Bitcoin today?
Well, it's such a new landscape, so there's a lot to learn. So I'll definitely be checking out that website.
Cool news is this is the path to mastery, right? Just getting started.
100%.
Yeah. All right, explorers, we're at the end of the month. We're getting ready for next month. Woo! We're glad you're with us.
Yeah.
Like, comment, subscribe, send questions to questions@masterybuddy.com. He's Nick. I'm Adam.
Talk to you soon.